Was good, y'all? Rich Sosa back in a building with another banger. Now look, first things first, before we go ahead and get started, I just want to say thank you, God, for another day and another opportunity. Now, as y'all can see from the looks of the title and the screen, today I'm going to be showing y'all a super rare build. Going to be called the Ball Hawk, and we're going to make it out of the shooting guard position today. So this build, as you can see in the background, we're going to be able to do a little bit of everything: shoot, move the ball with the playmaking. Then when it comes down to the defensive end, I'm telling you, one of the best rare build names, but also when it comes down to the stats this year, I think the Ball Hawk is going to be the best that we've ever seen it. So look, if it's your first time coming through, be sure to hit that sub button if you're new, turn on post notifications to be a part of the Rich family, and don't forget to smash that like button. Now let's go ahead and get into the making of this build. So we're going to get started by putting it under the shooting guard position. So I've seen this build made a few different ways, but the way that I'm bringing it today, I'm telling you, shooting guard is definitely going to be something new. And when it comes down to season 2, I'm telling you, the mate is going to change when it comes down to park, the rack, everything. So you got to consider new builds going into the new seasons. And the first thing that I'm going to do is make a build with a 6'4" height. So look, shooting guard is what you want to start out with. I'm going to go with lefty. And be sure to put this jersey number as number 1, because this is going to be the number 1 Ball Hawk and probably one of the most rare builds going into season 2. Now let's go ahead and take a quick look at the physicals. So I'm going to go with 6'4" when it comes down to the height, like I said. Now for the weight, I'm telling y'all, this is going to allow us to get a 100 plus strength, or you can go ahead and pretty much adjust this to your own liking. But look, if you go with 235, we're going to be able to get Hall of Fame bully, and that's going to make a huge difference when it comes down to this build. So for the wingspan, I decided to go with 6'8", and then for the body shape, look, we're going to go with big body Burley. I'm telling you, this is going to be the best one to go with if you're looking to take up the most space. Now if you look at the other ones, they're skinnier, they're not going to take up as much space on the defensive end, so that's why I tend to go with Bill or Burley or even Define. Now from here, let's go ahead and get into the breakdown of the actual attributes. So on this build, the first thing that I'm going to go after is going to be the physicals, and I think that's really going to shape out to what this build is going to be able to do. Now when it comes down to my speed and acceleration, I'm going with an 81 and an 85, and the reason why I do that is because the speed, it's important, but when it comes down to getting boost off of dribbling, I think acceleration makes a bigger difference. Now when it comes down to the strength, like I said earlier, we're going to be able to get a 100 plus strength, so go ahead and put this to a 96, and that right there already gives us 3 different Hall of Fame badges. Now when it comes down to the vertical, I'm going to go with the 70 right here, but if you want to adjust it, you definitely can do so. And then when it comes down to my stamina, normally my threshold is going to be a 90 for any build that I bring to you, but this is what the physicals are going to be looking like. Now I know this is a Ball Hawk build, so I'm going to save the defensive end for last, but let's go ahead and get into the playmaking. Now when it comes down to the speed with ball, I'm going to go with an 88, and then for my ball handle, this is going to be an 83, and that's going to set us up perfectly to be able to get quick first step on Hall of Fame. We also get ankle breaker, and I'm telling y'all, this badge this year, super important, and it activates so much. The animations that you get out of it, pretty much just as effective as the playmaking and shot creating takeover from 2K22. Now when it comes down to the pass accuracy, I think 70 is going to be perfect, and this brings us up to a total of 21 badges. Now if you want to go with anything different from what I'm showing you, you can do so, but I'm telling y'all, this is going to be perfect. For tier 1, I'm glad that we get ankle breaker on Hall of Fame with vice grip, and then tier 2 we get hyperdrive, same thing with unpluckable and quick first step, and then for tier 3 we get handles for days, also killer combos and clamp breaker. So honestly, this build shapes out to be pretty solid when it comes down to the playmaking. For the shooting, I'm telling y'all, this is going to be pretty solid as well. For the mid-range, I'm going to go with the 70 right here. Now if you want to go higher than a 70 mid-range, I've made this build to where you're actually able to get into the 70s and 80s, but when it comes down to the 3-pointer, I wanted to leave this at an 83, and then when it comes down to my mid-range, that's perfectly fine for my play style. But as far as for the free throw, I'm going to go with the 71, and this right there gives us 17 badges. Now when it comes down to the shooting, look, we get Claymore on gold, we also get guard up, silver midi magician, we get a good amount of Hall of Fame badges as well, and then for tier 2 we get amped on gold, green machine, and then we also get Hall of Fame space creator. Now for tier 3, agent 3, blinders, deadeye, and then we still get limitless range. So I think this build is made perfectly to shoot, but if you want to make any adjustments, you can do so to get extra badges. Now before we wrap it up, let's go ahead and get into the finishing and then the defense. So right there, when it comes down to the close shot, I'm going to go with the 75. Then when it comes down to my driving layup, you can leave this as is, but I'm going to go ahead and lower it to a 65. And then when it comes down to the driving dunk, I'm going to go with the 72. Now pretty much all the numbers that I'm working with right here are going for badge purposes. Now when it comes down to the post control, we're actually going to be able to get post scoring takeover out of this build, so go with an 80. And look, we get 14 badges, we get Hall of Fame back down Punisher, Giant Slayer, Then we also get Post Spin Technician on Hall of Fame. Now for tier 2 we get Fearless Finisher and Pro Touch. And then look, the badge that we wanted is going to be Bully on Hall of Fame, and if you add extra badges towards this build, we're going to be able to equip it, and that's going to be a perfect setup going for the finishing. Now let's go ahead and get into the defensive end and show you what actually makes this build a ball hawk. So when it comes down to the steal, go with a 99, and this right here is going to allow us to get that ball hawk build name. Now when it comes down to the perimeter defense, I'm going to leave it at a 79. When it comes down to the block, if you want to get extra badges, go ahead and put this all the way to a 59, and then for the remaining attributes, you can put this into any area of your liking. But look, if you go into the interior defense, that gives us 22 badges, and now we still have one room left over when it comes down to the shooting for the free throw. So you can go with the 75 here or make any other adjustments to your own liking and play style, but I feel like this is going to be perfect. So look, when it comes down to the defensive end, we get Hall of Fame off-ball pass, box out beast, and then we also get silver chase down artist. Now I'm happy that when it comes down to tier 1 we get rebound chaser, and it's only going to cost us 1 badge. Then for tier 2 we get ankle braces, menace, as well as workhorse. And then for tier 3, look, we get that Hall of Fame glove, Hall of Fame interceptor, bronze clamps with silver challenger, 22 badges. And then when it comes down to this build overall, when you put all the badges together, we get 74 in total. Now we get some of the pro dribble moves, and then when it comes down to the takeovers, I'm going to go ahead and say right now, this is going to make a huge difference on this build. But if you mess with the stats so far, be sure to go ahead and drop a like, and I would highly appreciate that. I'm trying to reach 5,000 big supporters, so be sure to hit that sub button if you're new. And if you want that daily content, I'm telling y'all, turn on post notifications, and I most definitely got y'all. But let's go ahead and move on to the takeover. So as you can see, we get the sharpshooting, also get the playmaking with the lockdown, and then finally we get the post scoring like I said. So this actually makes this ball hawk build super unique, and if you want to go ahead and try to get different takeovers, you're going to need to make adjustments to your shooting stats as well as the playmaking. But honestly, if you keep the defensive the same and the finishing, I think that's going to set you up perfectly to still maintain the build name. So for the first takeover that I'm going to go with, it's going to be limitless range. Second one, if you want to go ahead and be able to get the most out of your playmaking and be the fastest when it comes down to the speed with ball, I would go ahead and pick team ratings boost. But look, if you're going to be playing 1v1 more so, I would even consider going with post scoring takeover. Now to go with the build name, of course, you want to go ahead and put on lockdown takeover. The one that I think is going to be best is either going to be perimeter badge drop, or you can go with the extreme clamps. So I'm going to go with perimeter badge drop today. Now let's go ahead and make sure that we made the build correctly. Now comment down below, what do you think about this build and what changes would you make? But as you can see, we get some pretty nice comparisons, and together we have created the ball hawk build out of the shooting guard position. Now going into season 2, I'm telling you, knowing how overpowered the steals were in season 1, you might really want to consider making a new build at the point guard position or even shooting guard. I know a lot of people stayed at 6'9" when it came down to the first season. Metas are going to change from season to season, so that's why it's better to have more than just one build. But let's go ahead and get into the breakdown of the badges now. So this is what the build is going to be looking like once you max it out. Once you get that gym rat badge, we're going to be able to get a 100 plus strength. Off rip, if you buy boost, you're going to be able to get a 100 plus steal. Now with your takeovers being taken into consideration, remember we get the sharpshooting, playmaking, lockdown, and post scoring. So if you buy boost for this build, as well as run with teammates that do have on floor general, we'll be able to get a 100 plus 3-point shot, speed with ball handle, steal, as well as our strength all in one. So I'm telling y'all, you get a lot out of this build, especially when it comes down to being a rare build name. Now from here, let's go ahead and get into the breakdown of the badges. So for tier 1 on the finishing, I'm going to go with Hall of Fame back down Punisher. I think this is super clutch. Now you can go with post spin technician for the second badge, especially if you did pick the post scoring takeover. And then when it comes down to the final 6, look. So for tier 2, I would go with Pro Touch on gold, or you can even go with Fearless Finisher. I honestly do like Fearless Finisher a little bit more over Pro Touch, but again, it really comes down to preference. Now, if you do add on extra badges towards this build, remember, so once you become a starter in my career, add the 4 extra badges towards this area of the build, and we're going to be able to get Silver Bully. Now, if you add on the 4 extra badges from becoming a starter in my career, we're going to be able to get Silver Bully on this build, and if you complete 2 seasons, we're going to be able to get Bully on Hall of Fame, and I think this makes it one of the best builds possible. Now, we also do get Limitless Takeoff, Posterizer, and Slithery, but I think this is going to be the main badge that everybody should go after. For now, I'm going to go ahead and put on Rise Up, and then for the second badge, you can even go with Dream Shake. I'm going to switch it up and put this on Silver, and now let's go ahead and get into the shooting. So when it comes down to this area, we actually get a good amount of badges as well. For tier 1, I'm going to go with Silver Mini Magician and then also Volume Shooter on Hall of Fame. Now, Corner Specialist can be a super good badge, but when it comes down to tier 2, Amped on Gold is going to be essential for my opinion, as well as Green Machine. Now, this actually opens up tier 3, but if you want to, you can go ahead and take off Mini Magician, and that's going to open up a little bit more for tier 3. Now, if you want to go ahead and drop down Green Machine, I'm going to go with Bronze, and that right there is going to allow us to get Agent 3 on Bronze, or you could even go with Limitless Range. Now, this pretty much is how I would make the build so far, but remember, adding on extra badges is really going to change which layouts you can go with. But for now, this is something of the main setup that I would go with. Now, for the playmaking, we get 21 to work with right here. For tier 1, I'm going to go with Hall of Fame Ankle Breaker. Now, we also get Vice Grip, so I'm going to go with that on Gold. And then when it comes down to tier 2, you got to go ahead and put on Unpluckable. Now, I'm also going to go with Hall of Fame Quick First Step. And then if you want to, you can pick between Handles for Days as well as Hyperdrive. I'm going to take off Vice Grip, so that way I'm able to put on Handles for Days. And then when it comes down to Hyperdrive, if you add on extra badges to this area as well, it's going to make a huge difference. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and put it like this to where I get Bronze Hyperdrive as well as Unpluckable. Now, it comes down to your own preference, but if you want to be the most versatile, I think this is the best way to go about it. Now, let's go ahead and get into the defensive end. Now, the first one that I'm going to go with is going to be Box Out Beast on Hall of Fame. From there, I'm going to go with Silver Chase Down Artist. Now, we do get Rebound Chaser as well as Pogo Stick and Post Lockdown. You don't really need to put these on, but when it comes down to tier 2, the badge that I would consider is going to be Ankle Braces. Now, for tier 3, look, we get a good amount of badges here as well. So I'm going to go with Glove on Hall of Fame. We have 2 badges remaining, so look, I'm going to make one adjustment. Now, I also did go with the second setup when it comes down to my core badges as well as my main. So if you want to take a quick look at them, you definitely can do so. But when it comes down to the core badges, you can go with Gold Pro Touch, Agent 3, and then also when it comes down to the playmaking, Killer Combos, and then Hall of Fame Interceptor. And that right there is going to allow us to get both of these badges. But if you want to do it without using the core badges, you already know what you need to do, and that's going to allow us to get even more badges overall down the road. But if you want to go with this setup as well, this is going to be pretty solid to go with. But look, we get Hall of Fame Box Out Beast like we wanted, Glove, and then later down the road, look, Interceptor as well as Bully are going to be on this build. It just comes down to how much you're willing to grind out. Now, if you do consider to keep this build throughout each season, once you add on those extra badges, this is easily going to be one of the best builds to use and one of the most rare at that. But as you can see, we did get 14 badges on the finishing. Then when it comes down to the shooting, we get 17. 21 when it comes down to the playmaking with a total of 22 defensive. Now, if you made it to the end, man, I would appreciate it if you went ahead and smashed that like button. But if it was your first time coming through, be sure to hit that sub button if you're new. Turn on post notifications because I'm uploading every single day. And again, I just want to say thank you so much for your support. Thank you, God, for another day and another opportunity. And with all that being said, man, I got one last thing to say. Rich out.